Gonna laugh zusammen. Welcome to this special episode 11 at 11:11 is Carnival's beginning here in Cologne, so we don't have Singles Day, we have Carnival's Day here. It's the beginning of the Carnival season here, so from here on until I think February there will be Carnival time and Carnival events going on, with the main attractions coming next year. February, beginning of February I think, is where we have the Rose Monday, which is like the highlight of Carnival. Nevertheless, let's not talk about Carnival. I have my Star Trek uniform on, of course, with the right badge there. So Captain is on board here. We want to check out the Xiaomi 14 versus the Xiaomi 13 Pro in terms of cameras, and I would say let's get started. It's a bit of a rainy day. This is why I'm indoors today for this little camera comparison. Here we see the camera bumps of those two. Here you can see that the camera bump of the 14 is a bit larger than on the 13 Pro. Nevertheless, we have a triple 50 megapixel setup on both, which is quite nice. With the main difference here, the main camera on the 13 Pro is the IMX989, where we have the Light Hunter 900 on the Xiaomi 14. When it comes to the front-facing camera, we have the 32 megapixel front-facing shooter on both, but the Xiaomi 14 one can do 4K. And I think we start off with the front-facing videos. So we start with the 13 Pro that sadly on the front-facing camera can only do 1080p, so we don't have 4K recording here. What do you think about the stabilization, colors and HDR? I think it's a little overblown there in the background. Yeah, I'm walking inside of my apartment because it's raining outside and I don't want to I don't want to make this wet here right now. So yeah, we have an overexposure there for sure. What do you think about the stabilization and colors of the front-facing camera? I think it is not bad, but 4K is, I think, what it should have had from the beginning. Now the same conditions with the Xiaomi 14. You can see we have 4K, so better quality already. What do you think about this recording here with the Xiaomi 14? Stabilization should be nice as well, and the colors a little bit overblown still, I think, the highlights there in the background, but nevertheless the Xiaomi 14 does 4K and so many things right there with the front-facing camera that I would say this is definitely a win for the Xiaomi 14. There shouldn't be any competition, even though it is overblown, just like on the other sensor that we have on the Xiaomi 13 Pro. So here I would give the win to the Xiaomi 14. What do you think? Now using the main camera on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, IMX989 1-inch type sensor, you get nice background blur, probably, hopefully also a bit better HDR. If you're asking the question now, how do I get so good audio now here on the Xiaomi 13 or Xiaomi series in general? I'm not using the Xiaomi devices for recording the audio. I'm using an external recorder to record this. I can even show it to you here. So here's Timmy, the dog, who's like taking care of this little audio recorder here, the wireless microphone attached to it. And this Sony audio recorder is recording the audio actually right now. Let's go to the ultra wide angle. I can show you a little bit of the ultra wide angle, 4K 30 frames per second, no issues there with this one here. And what we want to do right now is zoom in on something. So I'm zooming through the glass window here, so it might be not the best, but I want to zoom on this little car there in the back. So one time it switched lenses, 3.5 times it switched lenses, I think 2.8 times there, you can see the car. Can you read what's written on the car there? This is 15 times zoom. What do you think about the Xiaomi 13 Pro? Now the Xiaomi 14 with its new Light Hunter 900 sensor, a little bit smaller sensor, 1/1.3 inch sized sensor. What do you think about the quality here of this device? How's the background blur? How's the HDR with this one here? If I move around, you can see also how good stabilization is working. And yeah, what do you think about this little system here? I really like the compactness of the Xiaomi 14, and I think the camera setup being almost the same as the 13 Pro helps tremendously with this device. And yeah, let's check out again here this little guy and the focusing, if it's working right. and then let's switch to the ultra wide angle to see how well the ultra wide angle is working. This is the ultra wide angle. What do you think about the ultra wide angle? The ultra wide angle, I think, sadly doesn't have autofocus. So if you want to do the macro shots, even macro videos or something like this, you have to switch to the 3.2 times zoom lens for getting macro shots, because the ultra wide angle doesn't have autofocus. At least it did not focus on anything. Let's try to focus on something. What's this here? I don't know. Is it focusing with the ultra wide angle? I really don't think it's focusing with the ultra wide angle. Let's try the zoom again. So let's try the zoom shot here. Again to the window. Let's zoom in 1 time, switch lenses, 3.2 times switch lenses, and we can go up to 15 times. I think it looks a bit more stable on screen than on the 13 Pro. Can you read what's written on the car there? How does this compete against the 13 Pro? So let's analyze the video. The Xiaomi 13 Pro is a bit warmer kind of video. We have only 1080p, so yes, it is a little bit less sharp there, less detailed there. I don't see much noise, however, where the Xiaomi 14 has a little bit more bluish kind of look. Look at the background here and compare it here. Overblown highlights both there, but we have a little bit more noisy kind of picture, as you can see here, but it appears to be sharper because we have 4K, which is quite nice, and it handles, I think, the light situation quite nice. And here you can clearly see it, that my face is a little bit more detailed there, and yeah, both handle this like totally bad, I would say. Look at the color, much more realistic on the Xiaomi 14, where here it's a little bit like too bright of a red on the Xiaomi 13. And yeah, all over the video you can see that the colors are handled much nicer on the Xiaomi 14's front-facing camera. Main camera video, do we see much of a difference here? Actually, it's quite interesting. Look at the Xiaomi 13 Pro here, nice and sharp and detailed. Yeah, it's a bit overexposed there. Still, we have the leaves there. Now compared with the Xiaomi 14, a little bit more overblown, I think, here than the Xiaomi 13 Pro, and we don't have so much punchy colors there in the leaves. So much more realistic colors on the Xiaomi 14 actually, and you can see it also here in the red. Look at the uniform red there. Good that I have it on. It's much more realistic on the Xiaomi 14 that doesn't have it so intense. And yeah, also here HDR, I think the possibility to make my face look a bit more bright is on the Xiaomi 14 for sure. And yeah, in general, I think both doing a good job here with these shots. And look at this one here, just compare it, almost the same, a little bit more contrasty look on the face there, 4K on both. A little bit like less kind of color in my face there for sure. It's very close with the main camera sensor. You almost don't notice any difference when it comes to like focusing on something. Both the same, white balance slightly different. This is whiter, this is more yellowish on the Xiaomi 14. Oh, this is like a little bit more bluish actually. Let's take a look at the ultra wide angle. Very interesting, more intensive color again on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, a bit more contrasty look. Look at the hair, look at my eyebrows and so on. Much more contrasty kind of look that we have there. The Xiaomi 14 has it a bit brighter there, also intensive colors, because it is an intensive color in general, but it is a bit brighter there, and I prefer the 14 here in this regard. And then when we take a look at the zoom shots, quite interesting as well. By the way, yes, the Xiaomi 14 doesn't have autofocus on its ultra wide angle. Let's take a look at the zoom shots. And yeah, we zoom in here and we go directly to the maximum zoom that we have on both. What we can see here is that we have a little bit of more details on the Xiaomi 14. It's definitely processing, as you can see here. It tries to make everything a little bit sharper, make everything a little bit more appealing here, and the text a little bit sharper than on the 13 Pro. But I would give the slide win here to the 14, even if it's trying to do this when I go out a little bit there, like this for example, and this, if I compare this side by side, I don't see so much of the processing on the 14, and I would say then yes, the Xiaomi 14 is better than the Xiaomi 13 Pro when it comes to video zoom. What do you think about those results here in terms of video? Let's take a look at the photos, the Xiaomi 13 Pro on the left and the Xiaomi 14 on the right. What we can see on first glance, not much of a difference. It's a Xiaomi device, and yes, the smaller sensor does not look any worse than on the Xiaomi 13 Pro. We have both 23 millimeters. What we can see when we take a second look is we have warmer colors on the Xiaomi 14. Look at the sky here, how much warmer it is in comparison to the Xiaomi 13 Pro. The next thing that we will see here with my favorite bridge is we have more contrasty look on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, a little bit raised shadows on the 14. And when we take another closer look is like, for example, this trash bin here. As you can see, this rubbish bin is much more visible on the Xiaomi 14. So we have slightly better HDR on the Xiaomi 14 with its light gathering capabilities than on the Xiaomi 13. In terms of detail levels and sharpness, both on the same page, a little bit more chromatic aberrations there on the Xiaomi 14. But this is basically on par. We can see a little bit more details on the Xiaomi 14 still here in the green grass. As you can see, I think it's a bit overpunched in terms of colors on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, where here on the 14 it's, I think, a little bit tuned down. Not so contrasty, a little bit tuned down, and a little bit more of details that I can see there. But it's really nitpicking here. I'm really surprised and impressed by this new sensor that can keep up, and I think even slightly beat the IMX 989, the 1-inch type sensor. Even when you go up here, you can see maybe slightly less sharp, but this is, I think, the lens on the Xiaomi 14 that is a bit smaller and less quality. So there is still, the Pro has some benefits to it, but in general HDR looks a bit better on the Xiaomi 14. Now let's take a look at the zoom lens. 3.2 times zoom, both basically the same kind of zoom lens. I honestly, besides like the color difference, a little bit more bluish on the 13 Pro, a bit more warmish, yellowish on the Xiaomi 14, I did not notice much of a difference. You can take a look at here. I would even argue eventually, maybe here, a little more sharp maybe on the 13 Pro, but it's such nuances that I would not see any winner here. And they all have the same kind of weaknesses, like a little bit of smudge going on and pixelation, like here, for example, and here. It just looks almost the same. There's not much of a difference. A bit more contrasty kind of look, perhaps a bit more sharpening on the 13 Pro, but it's the same basically. Ultra wide angle, also very interesting, almost the same again, but with a little bit more bluish kind of colors on the Xiaomi 13 Pro again, a bit more warmish kind of colors on the 14. I could argue eventually that the 14 has slightly better, sharper rendering here. You can see the green grass is much more natural on the 14 than on the 13 Pro, that has a bit more too punchy kind of look there. And when we go to the sides here, we can see also, I think in this case, that the glass on the 14 is a bit better, both the same kind of width. Photo length here, we have 14 versus 14 millimeters and f2.2 versus f2.2. So basically the same sensor. Maybe the lens has some difference, but it appears to be a bit sharper here on the 14. And when it comes to here overexposure, both struggle a bit with HDR, but you can see that I think again a bit sharper on the 14 there. Might be processing of the new processor that is handling this a little bit better there, but overall I think the Xiaomi 14 has a slight edge here when it comes to the ultra wide angle, very, very slight edge. Selfies, however, I think a big difference. Xiaomi 14 beats the Xiaomi 13 Pro hands down. Yes, the 13 Pro appears to have a little bit more HDR, as you can see here, but it's like making everything like grayish looking and has this weird, very, very hard to see, hard to unsee HDR-ish kind of look, as you can see here, like this halo around my head, which I also somehow have on the Xiaomi 14, but it's not so pronounced. At least when I zoom out, you can see a way more contrasty looking face there, not this like grayish kind of mist that we have on the 13 Pro. Nice and detailed, so the shadows are shadows and not like lifted completely up like here on the 13 Pro. So yes, the selfie cam, also the black shirt, look how it looks like here and compare it with here. Yeah, I think the darker kind of look on the 14 is winning for sure. Let's take a look at the portrait mode selfie. Again, a win for the Xiaomi 14 because we have HDR for portraits here, where it's completely overblown on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, as you can see here. And yeah, we have like nice bokeh balls here. We don't have bokeh balls because it's like, yeah, there maybe a little bit because it's completely overblown. And yeah, the nicer bokeh balls, I think, also on the Xiaomi 14. So yes, selfie cam is definitely a win for the Xiaomi 14. Now let's take a look at macro shots, both utilizing the 3.2 times zoom, telezoom macro lens. Here the Xiaomi 14 has a disadvantage because the Xiaomi 13 Pro can use its telezoom lens, but also its ultra wide angle for macro shots, where the Xiaomi 14 doesn't have focus on the ultra wide angle, so it can only utilize the telezoom here. Interestingly enough, we have a warmer picture on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, a bit cooler picture on the Xiaomi 14. And when we zoom in and take a look at the details here, this is the Xiaomi Buds 4, by the way, you can see almost on par. I don't see much of a difference. Probably the same sensors, just like the color rendering a little bit different there. You can see a little bit dust particles all over the place. So both very good for macro shots. I like them both basically on par there. So yes, the Xiaomi 14 has the better main sensor, slightly better ultra wide angle, and the telezoom in terms of macro and normal capabilities, normal zoom capabilities, is on par. Very impressive to get this in a regular module, regular variant, basically the same camera modules and the same camera performance as with the Xiaomi 13 Pro, even slightly improved. Let's take a look at the portraits, and here we can see already a difference. Both are shot with the normal portrait mode if you go into the portrait mode and choose the default settings, but we have a different photo length. So the Xiaomi 13 Pro is utilizing its 3.5 times 75 millimeter portrait lens, where the Xiaomi 14 is utilizing its main camera sensor with 60 millimeter here, I think. As you can see here, we have this difference there. So this is quite interesting. When it comes to sharpness and details, you can see it's quite soft on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, but the Xiaomi 14 has managed a little bit of a sharper shot with a brighter face here, where it look a little bit more lively there. The bokeh is nice, where here a little bit overexposed in the Xiaomi 13 Pro, where here we still see things. Now, to make it fair and square, I chose 75 millimeter mode from the AI masterclass there. And you can see both 75 millimeter f1.2, this is what they are simulating. But we have a higher ISO on the Xiaomi 14, where a little bit lower ISO on the Xiaomi 13 Pro. Just because the shutter speed is also a different one. On what you can see here again is, in this case, the Xiaomi 13 Pro has, I think, a little bit more pleasant background, and we have this Leica kind of vignetting that we don't have so pronounced here on the Xiaomi 14. In general, we have a little bit of warmer kind of look at the background here, for example. We take a look at the detail levels here. We can clearly see that, again, the Xiaomi 14 appears to be a bit clearer here. A bit noisier for sure, but it caps a little bit more of details there on my face, where it's a bit soft on the Xiaomi 13 Pro. So yeah, even though we have a little bit overblown highlights there, I think also a bit more noise, as you can see. The detail level is also a little bit more there on the Xiaomi 14. What is your preference here? Then the next shot is 35 millimeter documentary. On the Xiaomi 13 Pro, however, it is defaulting to black and white, and you don't have the possibility to turn on colors. On the Xiaomi 14, however, it is with colors turned on. So yeah, to make it fair and square, yeah, I think we have this typical Leica look here. A bit more contrasty look maybe. To make it fair and square, the Xiaomi 14 I also shot in black and white mode, but the natural black and white mode that we have there. We have also a high contrast mode that I think resembles more the Xiaomi 13 Pros here. But what you can see is here already like less, even if I add a little bit more contrast, a lot more sharper picture on the Xiaomi 14 for sure, and also a little bit more preserved highlights here in the background, as you can see. So the HDR seems to be a bit better. So in terms of portraits, yes, the Xiaomi 13 Pro is still good, I would say, but the Xiaomi 14 is, I think, winning here, not slightly like it was with the main camera sensor and the ultra wide angle even more. Here it is a bigger step than the differences between the main and the ultra wide angle that we saw in the normal shots. Here I think the Xiaomi 14 has more flexibility and delivers the better portrait shots. Night video mode on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, 4K 24 frames per second. It's very cold outside, this is why I'm doing it indoors. Very cold. So indoors, what do you think about the quality here? I'm in the dark right now, walking towards the light, 24 frames per second, 1-inch type sensor, the main sensor that we have here. If I'm now in the light, I think you should see a little bit more of me. And now the light in the background, what do you think about this one here? How is it handling this one? And let's walk a little bit into the dark again. What do you think about the night video mode here on the Xiaomi 13 Pro? Night mode video now with the Xiaomi 14. What do you think about the quality here? 4K 24 frames per second, basically the same kind of mode. We have another sensor here, a little bit smaller sensor, but larger aperture, larger opening. Walking towards the light, am I getting nicely illuminated? How about when I turn around here? Is it nicely exposing on my face, or is my face dark? What about stabilization here? What about noise in general? What do you think about the 4K 24 frames per second here on the Xiaomi 14? Let's take a look at the night photos on the left of the Xiaomi 13 Pro that has more punchy colors, both Leica authentic, more punchy colors and a brighter exposure for some reason. You can see the yellow here in the leaves, but also on the street there, where it looks a bit desaturated on the Xiaomi 14. Both are able to make the skyline appear again. Both have like a bit of noise there going on for sure. And yeah, both have some colors here. I have to say the color is more realistic on the Xiaomi 13 Pro in this case, because this car is usually this yellow and not like this desaturated yellow that we see on the Xiaomi 14 for some reason. But what we can also clearly see is that it's much sharper, much more detailed on the Xiaomi 14, which is quite interesting. You can see it here even in the leaves, even if they're a little bit more processed and sharpened up for sure. But this car here, yes, it's brighter for sure, but it's more detailed on the Xiaomi 14. And the same goes for the background here and those cars there. Yeah, when we have to compare those here, it is definitely a win for the Xiaomi 14 in this regard, even though the colors I like a bit more with the Xiaomi 13 Pro. Ultra wide angle, pretty interesting. Xiaomi 13 Pro has a very dark exposure in this case, and the Xiaomi 14 has a brighter exposure. I took this like 3 times, and 3 times I got the same results. Let's take a look at the detail levels. If I zoom in here a little bit, what we can see, yes, it is much more brightened up on the Xiaomi 14. This is why we can see a little bit more details, but also a bit of overexposure, like for this light here that is like exposed nicely on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, and it's not so much exposed here. Also, I think it appears to be a bit sharper on the Xiaomi 13 Pro in this regard, but it could be because it's like leaving everything in the dark, where here you can see that there's like some kind of sand playground for kids. And I can see those trees here, which are completely back here. So which one would you prefer in this case? And yeah, here this light and so on. And this light, yeah, this is really a red light there going on. Not even visible on the Xiaomi 13 Pro because it was probably too dark, which is very interesting. And just shot them like seconds split apart. So yeah, all the lights were still turned on. It's not like one turned off the other. Yeah, which one do you prefer here? I think I would have to give the win to the Xiaomi 14 because you can see a little bit more there in the dark. Otherwise, the quality probably is the same as with the Xiaomi 13 Pro. It's just the processing is a bit different there. Now let's come to zoom. Very interesting, because here I think it's also again a win for the Xiaomi 14, not because it's like a bit brighter, but because it has more details. And again, I think it's the processing. Here you can see a lot more details in this tower that is not really visible here on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, which is quite interesting. And also it's quite soft all over the place, where here, yeah, it is sharpening things up, definitely on the Xiaomi 14, but a little bit more detailed, as you can see here. And not so, yeah, less sharp as on the 13 Pro. Yeah, what do you think about those shots? And when we go 10 times zoom, the Xiaomi 13 Pro completely misfocuses, couldn't focus. I just tried 10 times to focus, even tap to focus. It was just too dark, and the night mode kicked in for 3 seconds. It was taking this shot, and this is the result that I got. And here on the Xiaomi 14, we can see the tower there. Definitely when I zoom in, it's like garbage, but it is definitely better. So in terms of zoom lenses, I would also give it to the Xiaomi 14. So we have already like the main camera sensor, where you could argue maybe the Xiaomi 13 Pro has the better colors there, but the exposure and details is better on the Xiaomi 14. The ultra wide angle, it's a brighter detail level. I wouldn't say is much better, but it's brighter, and you can see a little bit more of things going on, and the 14 also wins in terms of telezoom there. What about selfies? Selfies is a bit of a mixed bag, I would say. The Xiaomi 14 is exposing my face nicely with the flash that it's using there. The Xiaomi 13 Pro as well. It has but this artifact kind of looking face that I'm not sure what it's doing with the face, like denoising and at the same time repainting my face, where the 14 is not doing this. It keeps it real. It's noisy as hell, yes, for sure, but it keeps it more real. And yeah, when it comes to detail levels, the Xiaomi 13 Pro probably will win a little bit there against the 14, but the 14 has a nice exposure there. So in the end, I probably would give it to the 14 again, because you'd probably not zoom in to those night shots, selfies. But even if I don't get it here for the Xiaomi 14, it would be still the end result that the 14 probably is better than the 13 Pro. What do you think? Let's come to my conclusion and ranking. So here we have them side by side, TLDR. What you can see is 4.265 points for the Xiaomi 13 Pro, and the Xiaomi 14 is beating that easily with 4.3999995 points here. So it's better in terms of the main camera quality. It's basically coming up on same par as the Oppo Find X6 Pro as well as the Xiaomi 13 Ultra with this main camera, which is really cool. Then ultra wide angle is slightly better on the 14, so 4.1, so 0.1 points better there. The same goes for the zoom camera quality. It's a little bit better there on the Xiaomi 14, 0.1 points. Video recording quality is basically the same. Autofocus performance is basically the same. Front camera has done a huge tremendous work by Xiaomi here, 4.1 points. It's not playing with the top there with the iPhones or Huawei's, but it is there over the 4 points here for sure. When it comes to the camera UI, we have a slightly upgraded camera to the 13 Pro with a little bit more modes, like for example the documentation portrait mode is not only limited to black and white photography, and we have for example the possibility to turn off or turn on AI. Microphone quality is basically the same UI that we saw on the Ultra version, which is quite nice, and the extra features are basically the same. And this leads us now to the ranking, and this might be a little bit of a controversy right now. I think that some people will be very upset because the Xiaomi 14 ranks above the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, even not the 13 Pro that is down here, but even the Ultra version of Xiaomi's last flagship. Basically, why? Main camera quality is the same here. I still have to test them against each other, but it is, according to my ranking, the same. Ultra wide camera photo quality is a bit better than on the 13 Pro. This is why we have 4.1. It's worse than on the Xiaomi 13 Ultra for sure. The zoom camera quality is definitely better on the 13 Pro because you have a little bit more reach that helps us definitely, but under those 5 times zoom, it is definitely good. It's a little step up from the 13 Pro for sure, and can keep up with the Huawei P60 Pro and some others that are ranked with 4.3, or even like better than the iPhone and the Find X6 Pro for some reason. I'm not sure why I got the iPhone 4.2 points, probably because of the too much noise there in the shot. So yes, 4.3 points here. Video recording quality, not much has changed here. The 13 Pro was already 4.4 points. This is also 4.4 points. It's not much of a big difference there that we can see. Autofocus performance the same, 4.5 points. Front camera, however, made a huge step forward, and this is a tiny bit better than the Oppo Find X6 Pro. The Oppo Find X6 Pro has limited its front camera, for example, to 4K 30 frames per second recording. It has autofocus, the Oppo Find X6 Pro, which helps tremendously, but I like the more natural kind of look on the Xiaomi 14 that surprised me a little bit there as well. And when it comes to the camera UI, we have 4.5 points, basically on par with the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, and extra features is 4.3 points. So basically what we'll have here is, like I said, a device that I really like, very much, and the points show it clearly. Yes, it is a bit worse than the Xiaomi 13 Ultra in ultra wide angle and in zoom. It should be because it's an ultra version, but overall it's the best camera package. You can argue, yeah, it's basically the same kind of points that you get here. So if you take the Xiaomi 13 Ultra or the Xiaomi 14, you will be happy, especially with the main camera sensor and its photos. You will be happy without any issues. If you like to take selfies, you will be definitely much more happier with the Xiaomi 14, and the rest is basically the same. Just the zoom, if you want to have more reach, the Xiaomi 13 Ultra is definitely better there. And macro capabilities with the zoom lens, for example, ultra wide angle macro capabilities, so a bit more flexibility with the Xiaomi 13 Ultra there for sure. But this demonstrates how close those phones are in terms of their ranking, and maybe I have to add some more categories in here to make it a little bit more differentiated here. But the Xiaomi 14 for this kind of ranking, you can see here how close they are together, like 4.435, 4.415, 4.44. So we have third place. It is the fourth place basically together with the Xiaomi 13 Ultra. I would just say it's the same kind of score that you get there. It's the same kind of score. There's not much of a difference there in between those here. This makes me wonder where the Xiaomi 14 Pro will rank in this comparison. And what do you think about this ranking? Of course, I will redefine the ranking. Maybe I have to go down with the main camera quality, photo quality, if the Xiaomi 14 Pro is more towards the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, or if I compare the 14 with the 13 Ultra and notice, okay, the 14 is a bit worse, and then I have to readjust everything here in this kind of summary and ranking system. But for now, the Xiaomi 14 is on par with the Xiaomi 13 Ultra in my ranking, which is quite interesting. So the fourth place basically here on my ranking. What is your opinion? Write it down in the comment section. That's everything for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Until the next time. Bye.